Summertime at the Winning Together podcast. How are you, everybody? It's the summer of the shark, they say. This is Shay the Shark Azlet, and I've got the hammerhead with me today, Chris, the coach's coach, Avery.
What's going on, everybody?
Hey, brother.
Hey.
Man.
I love the hammerhead. I'm going to start using that.
I think that's your shark, yeah?
Yeah, I feel like that's spot on. Good.
Have you been keeping up on the shark attacks that have been going on the East Coast?
No.
They have record numbers like in Rhode Island and sightings in Florida.
Wow.
Yeah. It's
because of weather or?
Ask the shark experts. We're just sharks. We just do what sharks do. We don't ask questions why the blood is like attractive to us. We just go and hunt.
Yeah, I like it. That's crazy, though. I have not heard that.
Yeah. All right. So it's in the water. There is something in the water, something in the air. And today on the podcast, you tell me what's coming up for you, because what we do know is when we do these, there's always the one. When we speak to the one out there, there's a message that whatever comes up is the exact and perfect one that needs to be heard or shared or assimilated, digested, consumed. On your end, you are a guest at the Arena Talks that I Am Recovery hosts, and thank you, I Am Recovery, for sponsoring this podcast and making it all possible to communicate this. The Arena Talks we do monthly, they're on YouTube, and we bring in guest speakers to really go after the stigma of addiction and recovery and connect it with everybody experiences recovery these days. You are our last speaker. You're fantastic. You've been shared the stage with Olympians, sex traffic, escapees. You've shared it with Navy SEALs, and now you're here today. What's been coming up for you to get the message across?
Yeah. So first, I want to say I'm grateful and appreciative of being here. It's an honor.
It's mutual.
Thank you. I love when you say we're speaking to the one, right? Because in a sense, people, when I talk or I coach people and they're going to go speak in front of a group, they're worried about like, how do I reach everybody? I said, don't worry, you're never going to, right? Like something, if you're talking for 20 minutes, something you say may reach each person, but everything you say won't reach each person. And so to me, it's so important for us to understand our own story and the story we're creating. It's the thing that I find that shifts your life positively or negatively the most, right? Everything we do has a consequence or a result, whatever word you want to use. I know people think of consequences as a negative word, but it's just something that you do that something happens after from it. And
real quick, I love that you love words and words matter. And one thing I admire about you is find the word that has the right feeling. Yeah. That's what matters.
100%. And I love that too. I love that you brought it up, right? It's the most important thing you can do is stop listening to everybody else. So if you, this nicely, push pause on the podcast, you can come back to it if you want.
Totally.
But sit in your own self, quiet your mind if you can, and start bringing up words and finding what rings true to your soul. Like I have a list of about 40 words that light me on fire.
Oh, wow. Right? I love that.
So they're written on, and I have a 90-day calendar that's dry erase that I track, my goals or really I don't care about goals as much, but who I'm becoming for those 90 days.
Yeah.
And I track like my execution on becoming that person because it's about becoming something. And when I do that, I look and I go like, what are the words that I need to focus on? And then I go through them, and they don't always stay the same, right? Sometimes I go like, oh, this word's no longer powerful for me. This word is. And so when I say that, when we talk about the story, our story, we have to figure out from our past and what we want these present moments and these experiences that just happened to you just 2 seconds ago to mean. Right? And what most of us don't do, because we are, especially when we get emotional, we go into our unconscious state. And when we live consciously more, we can interpret and design the story for what we want it to be. What do we want to get from it? Because everything is meant to give us something. Every feeling, like, again, I don't like the words negative and positive. I like effective or not. So you can use negative or positive. I get like we think about life that way. So if there's a past experience that you go like, man, this is a really negative experience. What did you get from it? It gave you something. It still gives you something. It reinforces a belief about yourself. Whatever it is, you get something from it. And until we take the time to slow down to the speed of wisdom, start to observe our stories, start to observe that experience that just happened, that argument with your wife, that the run that you just completed, the whatever it may be, right? Like the struggle you're with food, it doesn't matter, right? Like it really doesn't matter what you are experiencing in life, in the sense that we're all experiencing something. And there always is a hard and there always is a victory.
Most impressive.
Right. And I love that. And if we can look at like life as there's always the victory to celebrate and really celebrate it, right? Like create that story in your mind. Like, dang, man, this is what I got from it. I got so much more powerful from this. I created this beauty in my life. I got to experience this thing. And then there's also like the failure, the feedback. And what do we get from that? Because we do get something, even if it's just the lesson. And I heard this lady from stage one time, and I can mention her name if you want, but she said the lesson is repeated until the lesson is learned. Mm-hmm. And the problem with most of us, or I'll say for myself, right? I won't put it on anybody else.
Love it.
For my past, most of it was I didn't want to feel the negative emotions. I didn't want to feel the lack. So I would push those away.
Yep.
And I missed the lesson over and over and over and over again. Until I realized, like, this is a gift that's given to me. Mm-hmm. I'm grateful for this. I appreciate this. And this is extremely hard to do in the moment. Like, when I have a disagreement with my wife, I'm usually not like, yay, it's the best. But later, and sometimes that's 15 minutes, sometimes that's 2 days later, I go like, man, I'm grateful.
That's right.
Because it makes me and her grow better together. I love the peaceful times, yet we don't learn as much. We don't learn as much about like, man, how am I missing her expectations and her needs? How is she missing? How are we not aligning? Right. But when the disagreements happen, that's when we get to shift. Like last night we had a disagreement and it became this huge thing of I said, like, we've been married for 4 years and we've been together for 5. And yet we learned something about each other last night because we had a disagreement that we never knew before.
Wow.
And it can be, if we emphasize this and we emphasize this story and we take from it what hopefully we can grow from, we go like, can be a life and a relationship shifting perspective. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we could have also said like, I hate that we got an argument. This sucks. Woe was me. Woe was you. Let's blame each other. But we don't do that as much anymore because we realize there's something to be grabbed from that and taken.
Love it. You are also one thing I respect about you is you're a critical thinker. And you really like that about that's a gift you have. So shifting, there's this attitude that negative things matter more than positive things, that positive things are all fluffy and they're just, on top or afterthoughts, but the problem, the issue, solving it's way more important. And yet if you're always on the problem, then you're creating more problems. And when you allow yourself to celebrate and honor and make the positive and the good feeling experiences matter just as much, if not more, how did you make that shift in you?
Stronger, never strong, right? So I don't feel like I haven't made that shift. I'm going to be honest. I'd love to tell you like, I just walk on water and I've made that shift and I float around and, yet I don't. And the question is, how do you live consciously to make that a thing if that's what you want to do, right? Because my subconscious mind doesn't. It goes like, analyze and criticize.
Yep.
Analyze and criticize. Okay, so they did great. Okay, cool. Hey, great job. But let me give you this.
Yep.
And it's still, like, I think this is one of my hardest challenges, and I've been thinking about this a lot in, like, just the last couple of weeks. Yet the truth of the matter is, when I can remember, when I can consciously live and go like, hey, you know what? What's more important is growth. And like you already stated this, I'm just going to restate what you said, is that our goal, or our brain is the greatest, like, goal-seeking, like, thing-seeking thing in the world, right? Yeah, apparatus, that's the better word, apparatus in the world. So if we feed it, hey, criticize, it thinks like, oh, well, we'll get better from that. Yeah, the truth is, like, and we can go way deep into why the brain does this, yet we'll just keep it surface level of, if I focus on the negatives, I'm going to get more negatives because that's where my brain goes like, this is extremely important to Chris. Chris he thinks about this all the time. So clearly I should find more to reinforce this because Chris wants to like reinforce these beliefs because Chris believes this. Or I can go like, how do I focus more on the positive and emphasize the good? And then I go like, okay, I can get either one, right? Like my brain's not going to like discriminate against the two. I get to choose which one I want. And so I have to choose the positive. I don't know that I have a great answer of how that becomes that way. Besides, you have to consciously live and choose to battle old patterns and beliefs. And we can go like, you can go into deep meditation and start to look at like what you, a limiting belief, for instance.
Yep.
And you can start to go like, hey, you know what? I'm not really great at this thing, right? Like I'm not really great at giving people encouragement. Mm-hmm. Okay. So let me go like 7 deeps. Why? Like why? And eventually you get down to a pretty core base. And then after that,
and what you're talking about, the why is this exercise where you ask why, and then ask why,
correct,
and then ask why,
until
you get to a place like, okay, I think that's pretty
right. Like, oh, like maybe, and we can go through it, but you know, in a sense, like, okay, hey, I criticize people. Okay, like why? Okay, because I got criticized a lot when I was a kid. Okay, why did I get criticized a lot when I was a kid? Okay, maybe it's like my mom or my dad had their parents criticize them a lot. And then I can go deeper and deeper. And then it can get to like, maybe I don't have great value about myself. So I criticize people because it makes me feel better, right? Whatever it may be.
Yep.
Then you can go and go like, okay, if that is true, what are some times where that hasn't been true for me?
Yeah.
Right. Where like I've encouraged, or where like I felt great about myself, or where like I don't have to reinforce with my parents. And then you can start to crack that foundation of core beliefs. And that starts to shift over time, 1%, right? We're not, everything to me is about consistency.
I love that.
And 1%. If we are focused on, man, I want to be a completely different person, you don't, because you'll end up feeling like you're crazy and you'll go right back to the old way because that's where your comfort, that's where you feel like
you'll
you
find
are.
some way to release the tension.
Right.
It builds up.
It's the AC in the house, right? Like it kicks on and you can, it doesn't like go from 72 to 60. Right, it goes from 72 to like 71, and so like then it goes back to 72, and then it kicks back on. And if you want growth, it's very similar to air. It has to be like that 1 degree change. And if you keep changing 1 degree, then you can get where you want to go. But it's a slow. For most of us, it's a slow process. That's not the come to Jesus moment that we all hear about or hope to have.
Yeah, for somebody who, you know, at times it thrives on, not the volatility is not the right word, but it's the right feeling of like I can do lots of big things in a short amount of time, and you used to be kind of a sprinter and, you know, throw all you had at something and get the result, to somebody who now is playing the long game and the long term and sees the law of accretion and momentum and how powerful they are. You know, physically you started running longer distances, and that translates into your emotional and the change you want to make mentally and in a lifestyle. So huge. That's huge shifts for you.
I want to tell you that, and I think this is extremely important. So many people, especially in personal development, talk about goals. Like goals are so important. I'm not saying they're not a great directioner, right? Like they direct you. Yeah. What I will say is goals make this sprint thing because I'm trying to get to this finish line. Becoming something sets these long-term visions that they're like, to become something, in a sense, there is no finish line. And there's like really the only finish line I see in life is death. That's the only thing I believe is true, like about life, is that's one finish line. I don't know what happens after that.
Yep.
But whatever that transmutes to, whatever that our energy transfers to, that's our finish line for here in this world. Mm-hmm. And so when you become something, you have longer term vision, and it doesn't become this thing where it has to be a sprint. It is a consistent pace that you want it. Like with the running that I'm doing right now, it is not a like, hey, I went from 1 mile, now I got to run 50 miles like I've done in the past. It's much more gradual and over a long period of time because it's about becoming something, not hitting a goal.
I think that shift for me too, and I'm becoming these things, or I'm attracting these experiences, that resolved in me that, especially when you talk about the self-talk of like, I didn't get the goal, or I'm not good enough, or it was, I need these things to happen. And it opens up a whole different way of creating the life that you want. You have to have like you said, a target, a direction, or a direction to go in and to focus this amazing brain that you have. But man, same with you, is when I went to things I'm becoming versus goals, that was a huge shift for me. Very valuable. And
I love it when it comes to, I'll just use running or addiction. It's so easy for us to go like, man, I want to when I get sober, when I run this distance, when I get to this money line, then I'll be happy because I'll hit that goal. Yet I don't know how, like however long that takes for each person is different. Yet you are waiting for like that pleasure to be delivered. Becoming, if I go like, man, you know what? I want to be sober. If I'm sober right now, this moment, I'm becoming the person that is sober. I'm already that person. I am. Right? I am that person. Yet if I have a thing of like, only when I'm always sober forever, every day of my life, like that actually is unachievable. Like you only find that out when you die again. So if you have like this becoming something, it is something you can be each day. That's the beauty of it. Like I get, and I mean this like chemically, like I get high every day because I become the runner every day that I go running, right? 200 and whatever.
High on your own supply.
Right. Yep. And it's like, okay, but if it was like, man, I'm waiting for when I run across America, that's when I'm actually, now I have to wait over 2,000 days. But each day I wake up and I go running, I'm in the process, right? I'm in that 1% execution of better. And I get that gift like, dang, man, like I get to become that instead of waiting for this goal that I hit some point someday, hopefully.
Totally.
Yeah.
So this is a great tie us into what you talked about earlier about story. So this is what you're giving is the keys to the kingdom. And this is what you just outlined and shared are some very effective strategies and even some tactics on changing that story, because the story you're living into is what guides your beliefs, your actions, your thoughts, how you interpret stuff, what you make meaning of, etc.
Yeah, so I take my clients through something called the AHA process, right? Mm-hmm. Awareness, habit, actions. And part of, first of all, our awareness really, I won't use the
copyright, Chris Avery.
Yeah, it really messes us up, right? Like the awareness screws us up because most of us are aware of what we want. We don't have what we want, so it already puts us in a place of lack. Mm-hmm. Yet when we go like, okay, we can shift our awareness, which we do in the process. We take you this part of the process is shifting your awareness. Yep. Once you do that and now you feel abundant, then you can go into awareness habit. So you start to go like, okay, what is the habit? Who do I want to become, right? What are the habits I want to realign with so I can become something even better, even greater than I am right now? And if you're listening to this, you're already great. You want to just become greater. The next step is action, and that action of that becoming, right? Like the only reason for the action is to become something, to reinforce those habits. That shifts your story. That's the whole point of the AHA process is to shift your awareness, like shift your habits. And when you do the action, it reinforces this new belief. But if you have a goal, you have so long to reinforce that belief, it's hard not to go back to your old like belief habits of yourself.
Yeah, once you attain the thing or the whatever, it's the internally you are unconsciously compelled to revert back to this done.
Of course,
now it's complete. So now let me go back to who I am or who I tell myself I am.
And I've used this example so many times, and I think this story is so locked in my brain to prevent me from doing that. So beneficial story, right? Negative, positive, however you want to look at it. We ran for our honeymoon. We did a trifecta. So the Spartan race, you can do 3 different lengths of a race in a calendar year, and you get a medal that says trifecta.
Point to your wife for being awesome that way.
Yeah, she's like, "What do you want to do for a honeymoon?" I was like, "Trifecta."
Let me tell you, pain. I thought would be a great honeymoon.
We're just gonna, but it was great because I sold her on. We'll train together all year, so we get to grow better together that way, and we get to go to 3 locations instead of 1 for our honeymoon. How great is that? So
more is better.
Yeah. So we really enjoyed it. But at the end of it, we went to San Francisco. We run the shortest race, and like I was training a lot, really intensely. Doing some minor cardio for that time. And when I got done, I just quit all of it. Yeah. And I realized, like, man, that was a really great goal. But it ended. It never, it didn't change who I was. And that gave me. It gave me value, but it gave me much less value than it could have been. And I'm not trying to say I should do something or I could be way different. I'm grateful for where I am. Right. But if I would have had that knowledge, and you're listening to this, so you have this knowledge now, the question is, do we apply it? And I learned after that moment, I got to do something different. I got to become something, because that's truly how like we apply the knowledge is the change in our life, the growth, the progression we feel.
You must unlearn what you have learned.
Yoda's always spot on, you know?
I can't think of a time that it hasn't been for me too.
I agree.
And so then I like about that is now you don't put down the experience or lessen it. You have Bruce lead it. And now that experience becomes this huge teaching moment for you of, oh, I don't want to have that flat feeling afterwards. I want to feel this sense of accomplishments and fulfillment and progress after doing something that you invested so much time and energy and money and effort into.
Yeah. And again, we go back to the consequence, results, feedback, whatever you want to say, like everything we do, if we're in the growth mindset and if we truly want feedback, I'm smiling because this is one of the things that came up last night in the conversation, the heated conversation that we had, right? Was, man, the way I look at feedback compared to the way that she looks at feedback. And I go like, man, I love when somebody comes to me and goes like, hey, this, like, you didn't like,
direct, matter of fact.
Yeah, like
this
yep. Could have been different. This could have been better. I'm like, awesome. Like, let's do it. I want to do that because then I can get better. She looks at it as like a devaluation. And I went like, dang.
Like taking away from.
Yeah, like, damn, like that used to be me. I totally get that feeling. I get that feeling where, and I'm not putting this on her, this is me.
Yeah.
Like at one point in my life, I didn't want feedback because I felt so bad about myself. And I was like, man, I need people to see me good because I don't believe I'm good.
Yep.
I need people when they see me bad, like I already feel bad. So when you criticize me or put me down, as I took at that time, that took value away from me, and I didn't have much value to give. Yet when like I started to value myself, and that was a huge shift in my life. When I started to value myself more, then I could stop and go like, you know what? It doesn't actually take value when people give me feedback. Even if you want to say it's negative, I say it's, you know, like,
or critical.
Yeah,
or
critical.
Whatever.
Yeah. I love it because it helps me get better. And I think like I can only get better. And people can go like, man, that sounds daunting. That sounds like freedom to me.
There you go.
Right? Like I can only get, like I am great where I am, yet I know there's better inside me. And if I can get better inside me, like bring on the feedback, because that's going to help me get there. And is some feedback less valuable than others? Of course. Like some feedback mean more to like, can you feel it more when somebody brings it to you? Of course. Yet it's valuable to have and to be able to receive that and still feel of value. And it's absolutely life-changing. It's the greatest thing that I can say that I've added in my life over the 6 years of sobriety, over my 38 years of experience.
And I want to speak to you listening, that your people, your family, the close relationships, the son, the brother, the uncle, the daughter, that, you know, when you're talking, one of the things that I heard is that's that really icky, ugly, hard spot where people that are close to you and you know they love you and you love them, but when they feedback or criticize and say this is not good, you can't hear it because you feel so low and so painful. It's you're not open, and then you can't help each other. And when you're willing to embrace the pain and allow it to, there's something better in me that I have to allow to be, then the people close to you, there's a shift where they can be them with you and they can say what needs to be said without it pushing you into a dark, painful, conflict and confrontation oriented place. So there's possibility, those who are listening, that you're like, I can't talk to my person or my family member or my close friend because they're so defensive or they're so argumentative. Chris, that is brilliant, and to know that it's possible, and you do it by changing you first,
always,
not them. Always.
Right. Like I think sometimes that's a point of frustration in like our discussions, because I'm always like, hey, I can give you, I can help you see where like maybe you want to work on, but like you got to figure.
Are you talking about significant?
Yeah,
other?
With my
yeah.
Like you got to figure that out for yourself. And I always say to her,
what do you want
like,
me to do? I can't tell you.
Right. It doesn't. It like I care, but it doesn't matter to me because I can only change myself.
Yep.
Like so many years of my life, like the old saying of I want to change the world. Then I realized I could only change my city. Then I change. Like all I can do is change myself. And in this conversation, now I understand how to help. I hope hopefully how to communicate with her in a better way and help her and reinforce those positive values and help her like do the work so she can see more value in herself or whatever she needs to process and go through, and allow space for that. Right. That's the biggest thing I can do is like allow space for her to do what she needs to do.
What greater gift is there? Because then you're also setting yourself free as well.
Well said.
And when when you're in that place and you're small, what you don't understand is when you reorient your perspective, or you're willing to tell the story in a way that is empowering instead of disempowering, the world around you reorients itself to you. And from the same people, you actually get different experiences and different people or different opportunities that were always there, but you weren't available to them because the story you were telling yourself, or the one you were making up, or the one that you were experiencing was in lack, or it was victim or martyr. And then when you were able to allow it to be problem solving or possible, all of a sudden you don't need your life. You don't need to get divorced. You don't need your dad to die. You don't need your, boss to keel over for your life to change. You just change how you see it, and all things around you will start to change.
So profound.
The self-talk part and rewiring that protocol. Tell me more about how you've done that for yourself, or how you coach. Because here's the deal, anyone listening, Chris, you've been a leader, and you've always known that coaching is your calling, and and guiding people to connect with their powerful selves and be in abundance, and that's continues to call you forward. When coaches want coaching, they come to you. Tell me about that.
So again, I think and without going in, there's a ton into self-talk, right? It's one of my favorite topics, though. It's the thing that changed my life the most, absolutely the most, was learning how I'm speaking to myself. And I mean, you can listen to somebody speak externally and get a view of how they speak to themselves internally.
You bet.
You can write self-talk, yet there's certain words, and not just the 40 words that I write down, but a list of words that mean something to your brain. And you can use them to really screw you up, or you can use them to really find and dig in and get that success and get a better view of yourself. With self-talk, it's so important first, before you do any self-talk, to observe where you're at, right?
Amen.
Most of us, and I'll say, like, I think the reason a lot of people come to me for coaching, like if you're a coach, is because even I think as a coach, meet somebody where they're at. Yet most of us are not willing to meet ourselves where we're at. What we want to do is go like, I feel this way. I don't want to feel this way. How do I get rid of this feeling? That's not meeting yourself where you're at. That's that's a fight, right?
Yep.
Like, now in your mind, you have two like big cattle headed in opposite direction, having a rope tied to them, equal strength, and you just feel stuck. And you go like, man, why do I feel this way? And it's because you don't meet yourself where you're at. One of my favorite comments is like, it's okay that I feel this way, right? It's okay that I experience this. If that's okay, and I can get okay with, like, it's okay that I'm pissed right now. Like, I'm running, I'm pissed. Like, man, I'm so, like, I'm happy. Whatever it is, whatever feeling you're having, it's okay that I feel this way. Most people are going to go towards the negative emotions when they're doing this, because most people are excited when they feel happy. We'll say it's okay if I feel this way, because I want
validation.
Yep, it's valid, right? Accepting validation. You have to do that if you want to go somewhere else. That's the truth.
Ooh, say that again.
Yeah. So you have to accept, you have to validate your feelings and emotions if you want to go somewhere else. Yet what most of us do is we invalidate our own feelings and emotions. We say like, man, I'm dumb for feeling this way. Man, this is stupid. Man, like, I shouldn't be angry. Man, like, I should be happy. Like, let me tell myself all the things I should be grateful. Like, that, if that works for you, that's amazing. I will say you are like the 1%er that works for, where people are like, I'm pissed. Let me think of gratitude. All that does is like, now you are, again, you're not meeting yourself where you're at. You're trying to get yourself to go to gratitude when you're pissed.
The time when gratitude lists do your head in.
Right. And so if you stop and you go like, I'm going to accept that I feel pissed. It's okay. Like, that's a human experience. That's an emotion that we all have. It's valuable to have that, right? Like, if somebody does damage, if somebody does damage to my family, I'm going to feel pissed. If somebody, like, if I get in a fight, I might feel pissed. Like, it may be two different experiences that create the same feeling or emotion, yet it's valid and important to have those. And it's valid it's important to validate yourself, to accept.
Essential.
It is. It's a must. And so most people, when they're stuck, even a coach, they come to me because they go like, man, why? I don't want to feel this way. Why am I feeling this way? And I will say, like, accept that you feel this way. Accept it. Validate yourself. We all want to be seen and heard. Yet, like, we want to be seen and heard from others. The challenge is, why do we not want to be seen and heard from ourselves?
Right.
Why are we not willing to go like, man, you know what? Like, it's okay. Like, it's not stupid. I'm not dumb. Like, I don't suck because I feel this way. Like, I shouldn't just feel grateful. Like, these are this is the beauty of life, all these feelings and emotions. And when we validate ourselves and we start to listen to the dialogue, like, man, like, okay, I feel stupid for this. Like, okay, why do I feel stupid?
Real quick, I want to interject. Going back to what we're talking about, how your brain apparatus and what it looks for in its goal seeking, it also does not distinguish between your 7-year-old self, your 17-year-old self, or your 37-year-old self. So that's why the underlying theme here is awareness and consciousness of just what is in the moment, in the present, without making it right or wrong, or because then that's when you can tell your apparatus, oh, I need to understand this dialogue or this experience or this interaction from the perspective of a 37-year-old, not 7, where I'm dependent on parents or older people to meet like my basic needs because I've got a job and I've got a wife and I've got a kid and I've got people around me. So I need to start now putting that into context of where I am now. So I think that's understanding that your apparatus doesn't know that. You've got to tell it. You've got to create the awareness around that. That is essential to understanding how self-talk changes.
So well said. Mm-hmm. And that's a part of consciousness or awareness, is understanding that the shoulds or this is so dumb that I feel this way. That's interpreted from your parents helping you interpret emotions, right? That's interpreted from, man, somebody told me I was stupid. Right, somebody told me I was stupid for feeling this way, right? And like, hey, I was 9 years old. Somebody told me, like my teacher said, you shouldn't feel that. That's stupid. Or like, hey, you shouldn't be, whatever it is, right? That's all reinforced. And when we can stop and accept ourselves, we now feel accepted. We can neutralize those feelings and emotions and decide where we want to go with this story, with these feelings, with these emotions. And that's where you start to bring in the self-talk, right? You start to understand your self-talk first. Like, man, I suck at this. Cool. Hey, it's okay that I suck at this. Yet, where can I go? Or, man, I suck at this, but let me tell you what I'm good at.
Yep.
Right? And so we start to shift it. The but shifts it. The but negates what you just said negatively about yourself, if you want to use that word, ineffective language about yourself. And now you can put in the but. Like, man, you know what? Like, it's really sucks.
Disempowering language.
Yeah, there you go. I love that. And like, hey man, like when you give me feedback, I really feel like crap. Yet when I get feedback, like I can get better, right? Like we shift our language and we shift it to it opens space. When we go back to the relationship thing, we need to open space for ourselves and change the dialogue for where we want to go. If you love where you're at, great. Keep everything the same. Yeah, most of us want more in a healthy way.
Your nature is to expand, and if you love where you're at and you want to keep it the same, it'll start losing. You'll start losing what you have.
So well said. And that's the truth, right? Like we are consistently getting better or we're consistently getting worse. There is like no neutral ground.
In the universe, you're tending towards order or chaos.
I love that. And so to me, again, if like self-talk is so in depth, so I'm not going to go into a ton of it right now. Yet the key is observe, accept, validate yourself.
And the key is to enroll somebody to help you.
Oh, for sure.
Because you can't see what you can't see. And we found that if it's somebody that's kind of impartial, not emotionally invested into your experience, they're more useful or valuable than somebody who's close to you.
That's a good insight. Mm-hmm. And so when you have somebody, they can help you direct yourself and help you direct your thoughts and your self-talk of like opening space and then writing some dialogue of where you want to be as it's present. And as soon as you write it as it's present and you repeat it enough, your brain doesn't know the difference. So it starts to, again, goal seeking. It can go towards either way. It starts to go towards the healthier, more empowering way that you want to go.
And the big shift that we know now and is that 1% and that absorbing it rewires your body. So then you start now associating those feelings like I feel weird telling my wife that she can keep talking and say these negative things about me, where before you would like, shut up, that's not wrong. You'd argue, but now you're creating space for it. and you're like, well, this feels weird, until the point where your body's like, yeah, that feels right. I create space for people. And so it's that it's so effective to do that 1% at a time, because the shift is gradual, but the emotions now come along with it, not just your thinking or what should be in your head. And when the emotions start resonating with the new experience, then you know it's there to stay, and to revert back to something else will take something, a shark attack to happen. But then when the emotions resonate with it, you're there to stay, and the shift has now become who you are, not what you want to be.
I love that. So well said.
Okay. So confidence is something that a lot of people seek coaching with you on and want to work on. Emotional regulation and being able to regulate your emotions in any given circumstance, I've found to be a huge source of confidence for me. Tell me about regulating your emotions and confidence.
Yeah. So, I mean, I feel like probably a lot of my answers are going to be over the same. First, I think confidence is a thing that most of us tend to not feel just overall blanketed in everything we do, right? Like, competence breeds confidence. Mm-hmm. And so if we are competent in handling our emotions, that tends to breed more confidence inside ourselves. Yet you can, like, hey, if you're like, hey, make this wonderful cake, like, to me, like, I'm not going to be confident in making this, 18-tiered wedding cake. I'm just not. Like, good luck. You'll have a mush and eggs or whatever. I don't even know what goes in a cake. So, wow. First got to research that.
And he's pointing to me as he's talking because he knows that I bake.
Yeah,
I'm a baker.
So like, help me out
my
here.
skill set is
give me lifeline,
So is it salt and flour?
Yeah, exactly. Eggs, salt, sugar.
I protect the pioneers. I don't be a pioneer.
Yet in many other things I'm competent in, the challenge with, and we're all emotional, right? And most people think, hey, I'm very logical. And I'll say,
thank the source of everything in the universe that we are.
And I'll say, like, that sounds really cool on paper. Yet let me give you, and I'll ask a few questions.
I'm a passionate person.
Right. Yeah, I'll ask a few questions, and it's emotion, right? Or we can talk about what you bought last, and we can go like, oh,
there you go.
That's emotion.
Boom.
Most impressive.
And so, to me, your emotional level only comes from putting yourself in emotional situations. That can be you choosing something hard and having to experience it and having to, like, de-escalate yourself, helping you stay more conscious, helping you feel through your emotions. Yet most of us want to get good at things by not doing them. Meaning, like, man, I just want to be better at this.
Oh my gosh.
Man, I just want to be better at this.
Can you say it? Like, that right there. How many how many people who are younger in age does that apply to? You got to say that again.
Yeah, most of us want to be better by not doing things. We just want to be better. And I get that. That was me.
The more I can consume other people doing it well, then I will osmotically become that way.
Yeah, and I'd love to say that's the way. I haven't found that to be the way. What I've found is, like, it's about experience. And if you want
it'll make you more sick. The comparison will make you more sick.
Well said. I think we see that vastly in society now. And so, to me, it's all about how do you experience emotions more often and then practice anew. Because you have to create that gap again, like we talked about, open that space, create the gap, observe. Yet if you do the disagreement we were having last night, like, my wife said something to me, and my first thing was, like, I just want to get emotional and, like, be upset and
show you how right I am.
Yeah, like I'll tell you how wrong you are and how right I am, right?
Yep.
Yet, and I'm far from perfect on this, so I just want to emphasize, like, I'm still growing. That's my whole goal, is, like, to be better when I go to bed tonight than when I woke up. That's who I am. That's my goal every day.
And Chris, if you're a wonderful person, and your wife is a wonderful person, and that's at the heart of it.
Great, and I love that. And I think if we can remember we love each other, like, we're not in a battle. We're not in separate kingdoms trying to battle each other.
It's us against the problem, not us against us.
Yeah, and when we remember it is, like, when we can meet each other where we're at and we go, like, hey, this is the thing we want to go towards.
Yeah.
We grow better together. But with that thing that happened, last night when she said it to me, and I even told her later, I said, just to let you know, I stayed really but, like, my first thing was I wanted to be upset. And
for sure.
hey, you're in your kingdom? Okay, I'm going to go in my kingdom. Let's fire cannons at each other and see whose walls fall first. Yeah, when we don't do that and we open up space to listen, it gives opportunity for the other person to feel what they feel. But with going through those hard experiences like the one last night, that's how we grow emotionally, right? We grow from being the warrior on the battlefield. That's how we get better at the war, emotional war. We don't get better by sitting on the sidelines, sharpening our sword, hoping that we just figure out how to fight. And I mean fight isn't in a very esoteric way. Yet the truth is we have to get in the practice. And if that's that's the reason I chose running for the last time, is because it's one of the things I hate the most. It's one of the things emotionally hardest for me to get out and do. Yet it shows me emotional strength and allows me to clear my head. And when we can clear our head and have emotional quotient in our life, we can slow down when we're in those turmoil spots and give space for us to breathe through it, right? Do some deep breathing, because that's fight or flight, and just clear it out and open up space to handle those emotions.
Breathing exercises, engaging in a physical activity that's maybe challenging or confronting. You and I, cold work has been at the heart of everything rad, and if with you in my life, that happened.
The feeling's mutual, by the way, on that. We did it for the first time together
in a bathtub that wasn't even it was just the cold tap water. And we're like, whoa, ah!
It was cold, bro.
And now we jump in, rivers with ice in them, and we sit in it, and we
for much longer than the 30 seconds. We're like, oh my goodness, I got to get out of here. But that's how we grow emotionally, right?
That's what coaching or becoming aware allows you to start now putting yourself in situations where your emotions get big, and then you use your own body's natural resources or the resources around you to self-regulate and bring it back into a place where your emotions become your best friends and guides, and not something you have to numb out, work against, or you despise or hate.
And I want to say, you mentioned a couple things, and I want to go back to them. If you're aware of what you're aware of, there's no growth in that, right? That's the reason it's so beneficial to get a coach, because they help you create a new awareness.
Yep.
And I will say, when we talk about awareness, we're not talking about where they talk about it in personal development, where it's you just got to be aware of more stuff. The people that are the most successful are aware of stuff. That's cool, but that's also what keeps you stuck. Mm-hmm. So if you can get a coach or somebody, a third-party source, to help step in and go man, this is what you're not aware of, or you're so aware of this, your goal, again, your brain, your goal-seeking device, your brain is going towards this. How do we shift the awareness so it goes towards what you really want it to?
Yeah.
And I think that's a huge shift.
Not what you need to do more. A lot of times it's chipping away at stuff you need to stop doing.
Correct.
To get there. One, I want to circle back to you analytical types out there, and the people who,
my people.
Yeah, your people, exactly. This comes up in parenting. It comes up when you have different types of employees or clients. The problem-solving skills that serve you so well in one area of your life, one of the awarenesses that has helped me is that in part of your life, there's human doing, solving problems, business, things, getting A to B. There's also part of your life that's the human being part of your life, where there is no outcome. And when you try and apply that gift and that talent of problem solving and finding the reasons why things aren't working, works against you almost, or makes these so hard to navigate, is that shift of okay, this is a human doing thing, but this is now a human being. I'm being with my partner in this, my wife in this experience. It's not, I don't need to fix her. I need to be with, and then we go to that place.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to what you said a few minutes ago, is if you're trying to fix her or that person or that relationship, if you're not getting together on the situation, you're now in a battle, right? I'm not meeting you where you're at. Let's go back to what we talk about with coaching. I'm not meeting you where you're at. That's when me and my wife have the bigger issues, right? When I'm trying to tell her what she's trying to tell me, and neither of us are seeing or hearing each other. We're not meeting each other where we're at. But when we can go hey, this thing that we're battling over is the thing we want to work on together. And when you get together on that, like, and for me being analytical, it's sometimes difficult for me, or in the past it has been. Like, I'm extremely emotional person, but it's been challenging me for me to understand my emotions and handle my emotions. Yet when I can remember, like, hey, we're headed this direction together, now we can put that emotion, and it's like centrifugal force with each other. We can create that emotion and go somewhere.
It's positively spiraling up together.
Correct.
And instead of spiraling down the drain.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that accountability partners is still important to you. Like, I love that you, the fundamentals that got you here are still the fundamentals that get you there. Like I love that Hoosiers attitude of yours. Tell me what's been like a big breakthrough for you this summer, and where you want to go from here.
It's a good question.
And
I think
bring it on home.
Yeah, I think the biggest breakthrough for me this summer, it's funny because sometimes I get away from the basics, and then I realize, like, the basics are all right. Like, this is a football, right? Vince Lombardi, like, hey guys, you've been playing football your whole life. This is a football. Like, let's start with the basics. And to me, coaching people helps me stay in the basics.
For sure.
Because those people need the basics. But so do I. There's nobody else that needs anything besides the basics. The question is how much do I implement them? And for me, when this summer is just about understanding the power in just consistent growth.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's not this explosion. It's not like the business when we are working with team, like, you know, we create a company called Team U. When we're doing that, like, I want it to go like so quick.
Totally.
Yet again, like, that's like a goal thing and not a becoming thing. And if I want to become the person that runs the company, become the person that, like, expands and grows and has these coaches that are available for these companies that we're working with, too quick a growth can be quickly destructive and just reset all the way back. And we could be back day one starting the company again because, right, like, we didn't fall through. We didn't get the results that people needed. That can be detrimental. And so for me, it's this consistent understanding of be in the moment. Think about a couple of years ago where you were. And if you are happy to, like, if you would have thought 2 years ago, like, man, I can't even wait to be in that moment. And sometimes I'm like, man, what's the next moment? Yet when I can stop and be present and go, like, man, this is the moment. This is what I wanted a year, 2 years ago. I'm so grateful to be working on this full time, right? I'm so grateful to be having my energy invested in this and see this impact that it can make. I'm so grateful to have the teammates around me. And all we can do is keep being consistent. And if we're consistent over time, that's the success story. Right? Like, success isn't this arbitrary thing that's so hard to create. Whatever success is for you, it's this thing of consistency and understanding, like, are you being effective in your life and are you enjoying becoming that?
And I love, as a way to tie this together, is that the feeling of having a story that is totally making you miserable and you're living into it, to shifting to now your story is expanding you and it excites you and calls you forward. And then to witness it, that, oh, I am living into that person I said I would be last year, last month, last experience. And to witness that and to see, like, yeah, this is my, like, the movie is playing out exactly as I should. Oh, that plot twist. Yep. I had, like, that became my opportunity to grow or to become the hero that I said I would be or that I want to be. And as you witness that, your story coming together, that feels so, that's the best. It's the best.
It is the best.
Chris, I can speak for myself, and there's several other people in my life that are important to me that I just do rad shit with, and they all have significantly, profoundly positive experiences with you. Thank you for being on the podcast today. Thank you for speaking. Thank you for giving your gifts and talents powerfully. Thanks for, like, taking, like, no shit, but also loving deeply through it all. It makes you this magnificent mix of badassery and awesomeness in the process of becoming.
Love that. Thank you, man. I really appreciate it. Grateful for being here. Grateful for everybody's listening.
Boom. All right, my abundant friend. We'll catch you next time. Thank you for joining the We Need Together podcast. Share, be aware, I dare you.